Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this NXT review edition for December 4th, 2019 review. This was a very, very decent little show that we had here that built up towards a little bit towards the next pay-per-view, which is going to be Worlds Collide with NXT UK and NXT themselves. Another thing that they did is they brought about a couple of championship matches for December 18th, which is going to make basically their last show before the end of the year, since they probably are going to have the 25th off for Christmas. A very big, like, pay-per-view SK type of event. Now, I'm going to go on record and say this, guys. I am actually going to be watching NXT on December 18th over AEW Live. Because what they're providing here on December 18th's episode for NXT compared to AEW's episode is far more superior of a pay-per-view event that's going to be aired for free on live television. So I think I'm definitely going to take advantage of that opportunity and watch that event for December 18th and watch AEW second. So I'm going to give NXT my live viewership for that show. For this show, I'm going to say it's pretty average, but good. Very solid. Good way to, start things back up again, building towards storylines, going towards a new pay-per-view, going towards building up to NXT TakeOver Portland in February, and also giving us some kind of pay-per-view type feel to this December 18th episode just before the last year. So I like what they got going here. They had a couple of good matches. One that kicked it off was Pete Dunne versus Killian Dane. I actually enjoyed this matchup very much. Very strong, solid, stiff action back and forth. Killian Dane won by Dane falling back from the top rope and Dunne hitting the mat, staying on top of him to get the pin for the win. That was actually a very lucky win for Killian Dane. But both of these guys beat the shit out of each other to make the match very highly entertaining. So kudos to those guys. So after that, we had Dakota Kai get interviewed by Kathy Kelly. She plans on taking Rhea Ripley out tonight, just like she did that hood rat Mia Yim, and then they go to commercial break at that point. Out comes the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, the North American Champion Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly, and he also has the tag team championship that Bobby Lashley, God almighty help me. Bobby Fish holding on to Bobby Fish's title because he was actually injured and he wasn't there for that week. Supposedly he's reported having a neck injury, which is keeping him out for a couple weeks, maybe even a few months. I'm not even sure. I gotta research the injury and how long he's gonna be out. But Cole gets on the mic, Adam Cole, and talks about how the Undisputed Era had a November to remember. Gee, I wonder where I heard that slogan before. ECW! Sorry, I must be getting a cold. I don't know. But anyway, they took over Raw and SmackDown, he says, and then embarrassed them at Survivor Series. Goes on and says they are the Iron Men of NXT. I can't dispute that right now, at least for the year 2019. They have been the face of NXT. So I can't really say much of anything on that. He goes on to say, how does NXT repay them? By injuring Fish last week, by Keith Lee hitting him with the big pounce last week, making him look like a fucking ragdoll. Cole says he is the NXT World Champion. He deserves respect. Fans chant for Lee, and Cole brings up how Finn Balor turned his back on them last week, kicking him in the face. Now, I didn't ever think that Finn Balor was joining the Undisputed Era. He was a guy that needs to be the world champion. If he joined the Undisputed Era, he would never get that opportunity. He would be Cole's sidekick to helping him retain the title, or he would have to go after the mid-card title, which is also in the Undisputed Era. So you have no way of getting a championship to begin with. So Cole says they need answers and aren't leaving until they get them. The music hits, and out comes Lee instead. Lee marches to the mic and takes the mic as fans chant for him. O'Reilly takes the mic and starts in on Lee, with the others chiming in. Lee says he's a game changer and brags on of the GIF, Cole taking the pounce going viral, which was extremely funny comment that came out of Lee's mouth. Lee says Cole is welcome for that. And Lee also mentions War Games and then says he's deciding which title he wants to take from the Undisputed Era first. Cole threatens to beat him down and end his career. Lee immediately drops Cole with a mic. But also, I forgot to mention something. This is kind of shortened down by Wrestling Incorporated. Cole comes out and says, that's kind of funny. You're a game changer. You go ahead and you have moments. But there's one thing that happens. You always lose in those big moments. Take example, being the last member of the NXT roster in this Men's Survivor Series matchup and losing to Roman Reigns. Ouch, that had to sting a little bit. But at the same time, kind of cool for him to even be mentioned in the same name with Roman Reigns, who's the face of WWE. No matter how much they want to keep throwing Seth Rollins in front of the Raw roster, when Raw is not really the primary focus anymore since SmackDown's on Fox. So, at that point, Lee immediately drops Cole with a mic shot to the head, and they attack him, but he fights back. Lee tosses O'Reilly into Strong as Cole retreats to the floor. Tommaso Ciampa suddenly attacks Cole from behind on the ramp. Cole is sent back into the ring, and Lee goes for a power bomb, but Strong and O'Reilly pull Cole to safety. The Undisputed Era retreats while talking trash as Lee and Ciampa stand tall in the middle of the ring. Ciampa's music plays as he picks up the NXT belt that Cole dropped. Fans pop for Ciampa at that point. We then have Shayna Baszler go one-on-one with Axia Lee. This matchup was pretty good. I actually like Lee in this matchup, but I think it had a lot to do with Shayna Baszler carrying this match load pretty much, making it a very intriguing matchup overall. But Lee didn't do too bad of her own. She held her own against Baszler. Fortunately, she ends up losing with a rear naked choke and ends up tapping out anyway. After the match, Baszler stands tall as her music hits. She raises the title as we go to the replays, and still to come, Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai back to the commercial. So back from the commercial, they go ahead and they had a video package of Kassius Ohno, who is saying that he's going to be at Worlds Collide, and also mentioning that he wants to have a match going into the show, and pretty much I guess it was an open challenge to anybody that would want to face him. Then we had the Forgotten Sons versus Leon Ruff and Adrian Alanis. This matchup was downright one-sided beatdown and a chokeslam at the end. Leo Ruff gets a fucking rough-ass chokeslam from the outside of the ring onto the side apron of the ring and really getting his ass fucking hurt bad. I hope that guy is okay and gets a lot of ice on that back of his, not to mention a lot of rest. Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley was next, but unfortunately that match did not really take place at all. It pretty much, you could say, was a non-contest, or no contest. So at that point we had Mia Yim be the one to show up at this matchup and kick the shit out of Dakota Kai while Rhea Ripley just rooted her on in the situation, getting back at Kai for attacking her during war games and putting her out of commission for the entire match. So Ripley thought it'd be a good idea to get even and have a plan of her own going into this match without actually having a match with her anyway. From that point, we had we did have Ripley shown at ringside when the music of NXT World Champion Shayna Baszler hits. She comes out with Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir as Ripley hits the ring to wait for a fight. Shafir and Duke double team first, but Ripley fights back. Baszler enters, and they brawl at this point. Baszler goes for the Kofita clutch, but Ripley ends up fighting all three of them off. Baszler applies the Kofita clutch as fans chant for Ripley. Ripley fights free again, but Baszler gets on her back with the submission, bringing her back down. Duke and Shafir join back in the triple team as fans do dueling chants. Baszler finally makes Ripley pass out in the middle of the ring, and the fans actually boo for this. Originally, before she falls back into the ring, she actually has Shafir and Jessamyn Duke pin her arms right over the rope, while pull down on her arms while her neck is right over the rope, and Shayna Baszler has got her in a rear naked choke over the rope, choking her out practically and making her fall to her demise. So that's pretty much what happened here. At that point, she gets the microphone, taunts Ripley a bit with a few comments, and then reveals that she wants to have a title match with fucking Rhea Ripley and get this whole thing over with and give her what she wants and kick her ass and get it over and done with Ripley and move on to the next opponent that she will choke, rattle, or crack. You get my point. Anyway, we then go backstage with Kathy Kelly with Tommaso Ciampa and Keith Lee. They will team with a partner to face the Undisputed Era in tonight's main event, and Dominik Dijakovic appears, and it looks like he'll be the partner, and they walk off together, and that's how that whole segment ends. So then we lead into Finn Balor speaking about the NXT. He kind of touches and rehashes a lot of the things he's already mentioned. His future is his past now, or his past is going to become his future. And he mentions that he carried the NXT brand on his shoulder. He made it what it is today, and he played a very big part in what NXT is today anyway. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that, and definitely what he is saying is true. He did bring a lot of attention towards the NXT roster and its brand when he was the champion. So I'd have to say he's probably the most prestigious champion of all time in NXT. The only other person you can think of, or even remotely say had anything to do with making that title mean anything and making NXT mean importance is Kevin Owens, because of what he did with John Cena. So that's all I really can see in that. But other than Kevin Owens, Finn Balor has been the measuring stick of being an NXT World Champion. And he produced probably one of the best matches as a champion of all time. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that you could say are anywhere close to what Finn Balor has produced as an NXT World Champion. I mean, you could say Tommaso Ciampa is one of them, but he did not hold on to the title long enough to get that kind of credit, I believe. So at this point, his mindset is he doesn't have any alliance with anybody. He's not friends with the Undisputed Era, with Adam Cole, or anybody else. His attitude is, I'm by myself. I'm the prince from the New Japan Wrestling brand. And his attitude is, I want to be the NXT World Champion once again. Now, I wish we would have had this kind of Finn Balor on the main roster when he came back and he couldn't get to where he wanted to be. I think after his match with Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble of earlier this year, he should have been turned into a heel immediately. Now, the type of heel he's portraying is not a cheater, a fucking loser who can't, win on his own. He's the kind of guy that has a very bad attitude. And he don't like anybody. Heel, face, it don't matter. He don't care for any fucking person on any roster. He wants to get his name back out there. He wants to be recognized as one of the best. And over the time of being on the main roster, he has not been portrayed as that. So, with him having this new attitude, this definitely, you kind of gain sympathy towards Finn Balor, if anything else. That's just how I feel on it. But anyway, that's pretty much what the overall consensus was of that promo from Finn Balor. Then we had Cassius Ohno come out, and Matt Riddle was his actual opponent. This matchup, it was okay. I really don't care for Cassius Ohno so much. I'm not a big fan of his. I think his in-ring work is very boring and dull, and it just didn't seem all that important to me. At the end of the day, Matt Riddle picks up the victory with a Bro Derek knee shot to the head, and gets the 1, 2, 3, and that was pretty much it. Anyway, let's move on to other things here. Kushida was supposed to face Raul Mendoza. That match did not occur. Cameron Grimes came into this match and beat the shit out of Raul Mendoza so that he could be placed in this match with Kushida. Kushida performed at a very high level, like as if nothing was wrong with him, or he didn't go through any major issue. He does win by a roll-up pin and wins this matchup. This match was okay for what the time it had, and I was fine with it. Cameron Grimes, though, I don't particularly care for. Last but not least, we had the Undisputed Era versus Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, and Dominik Dijakovic. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. It's fucking hard as shit to say the damn name. But he actually had the spot of the night. Now, I don't do spot of the night, it's match of the night, and moment of the night or whatever. But I will go on to say this. A move that Dijakovic did in the middle towards the end of this matchup was unreal. He went to the top rope, did a corkscrew spinning dive onto the floor and onto a bunch of everybody else that was on the outside of the ring, knocking them all down. The crowd went fucking nuts. Probably the biggest pop that the entire night had. Now, I mean, the crowd wasn't dead or anything, but they weren't as loud as that one spot that you got to see. So bottom line is, that was fucking unbelievable. The rest of the match was, standard. It was just a normal 6-man tag team match. There was a little of intelligence in something that happened during the match that I'd never seen done before in any matchup of any kind. Tag team, 6-man tag team, whatever. They had all 3 members of the Undisputed Era try to pull Dominik Dijakovic back to their corner so he couldn't tag one of their tag team partners. That was fucking brilliant. That was brilliant stuff I saw in this matchup. One of the most intelligent things I have ever seen. If one guy can't pull a massive guy like Dijakovic to their corner, get all 3 of them to do it at the same time, and then tag one of the other in the match to get an advantage over Dijakovic. I thought that was fucking fantastic. But at the end of the day, Keith Lee picks up this victory. Finn Balor actually got involved before Keith Lee got the victory, and Keith Lee was the one to put him out with a major powerbomb, and that was pretty much it. Then Keith Lee goes ahead and hits a big jackhammer in the middle of the ring for the pin with the win as the referee wakes back up. And that's how this match closes out. So basically, in this whole scenario, we see Keith Lee really shine. We see him get rid of Finn Balor out of the middle of this matchup to make it a clean fight again. We see Keith Lee pick up the victory for his team instead of Tommaso Ciampa. There's a lot of things going on here. And at the end of this, and this is why I'm going to be watching NXT on December 18th over AEW, is because NXT is going to not also have the Women's Championship match on that episode, but the World Heavyweight Championship match. And on top of it, next week they're determining a triple threat number 1 contenders match to find out who gets to face Adam Cole for the NXT World Champion. And the 3 combatants is Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, and Finn Balor. Now, do you believe that Keith Lee will be the one to get that opportunity? In the sense of what we're seeing, yes. Because of the fact he is getting major pushes in different situations. He had a moment with Roman Reigns that the fans went apeshit over. He's been winning matches left and right. His matches with Dominik Dijakovic have been outstanding. And they're 2 humongous men. And I don't know why Dijakovic is not getting any kind of major push either. Because he has displayed just as much great talent as Keith Lee has in the last couple of weeks since they've been placed on the USA Network. So that's how I feel on that situation. But Keith Lee, I will give him credit. He has been a real, stealing the show. Well, not really stealing the show. But he's really getting a lot of attention drawn to himself. And Vince McMahon's starting to notice him and starting to like him, which is great. I'm glad Vince McMahon has some kind of interest in something other than just Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and other joke schmoes that don't mean diddly shit. Now, is he ever going to get a major push on a WWE main roster? Who the fuck knows? But from what I've heard, Keith Lee is going to possibly be turned into a heel character with Vince McMahon when he goes to the main roster. Do I like that idea? I don't know. I've never seen Keith Lee perform under a heel character persona, so I'm not sure. Would I like to see it? Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, just depending on how Vince McMahon does it. And based on the history of the last 5 to 6 years, I don't like his chances of coming out looking good. So this is big trouble for Keith Lee. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for him. I'm just glad the momentum he's got right now is very solid, and it's great. Before, like a year ago, he wasn't doing anything. Even in 2019, until this fucking USA Network thing started, he hasn't done a damn thing. So, with him getting this push and everything, and getting noticed, I'm really happy for the guy. I mean, he's got a lot of good talent. He is overweight, I will say that, but that's not the whole thing you should look at to judge a wrestler in where they should be within a company. So, if he's got the skill set to entertain a crowd, give him the moment. Give him an opportunity. I honestly don't like the idea of giving Keith Lee this world title match, though. And the reason why I'll say that is because I don't think that Keith Lee deserves to have a loss for a world title match. If anything, if Keith Lee gets this opportunity, he should beat Adam Cole for the world heavyweight title. But not at this December 18th show. I think Adam Cole should lose it at the TakeOver event in Portland, Oregon. So, right now, I think the guy that he needs to face, honestly, is Tommaso Ciampa. I think Tommaso Ciampa needs to beat Finn Balor, pin him, leave Keith Lee out of the mix so he doesn't get a loss on his record in the middle of this momentum build that he's getting. And then at Portland, Oregon, Keith Lee wins the world title from fucking Adam Cole. That's how I'd do it. But I'm not seeing it's not going to happen. I don't believe that's what they're doing. I think Keith Lee is going to get the win. He's going to lose to Adam Cole in a very good, entertaining matchup. And then probably by the Royal Rumble, he's going to appear in the Royal Rumble, and then he's going to be put on the main roster. That's how I see it. Now, do I like that? Not really. I want to see him stay with the NXT roster. I think he fits better with this. I don't think he's going to gel well with the main roster at all. I think he's just going to get lost in a shuffle, and Vince McMahon's just going to lose interest in him. I think Vince McMahon should let Triple H work with these guys for a longer period of time, like a couple of years, man, where they're main eventers and such. And Vince McMahon actually watching the NXT product and seeing what it's all about and understanding the characters and what they are portraying. I'll just give you guys a prime example that's very funny because a lot of fans talk about how Vince McMahon does not watch the product. I watched JD from New York 206. He reports a lot of times that Vince McMahon does not watch the NXT product. He doesn't know the characters that Triple H has developed down there. So my father and I were talking about wrestling, about AEW, NXT, WWE's main roster, and all that stuff. And he does mention to me that he has noticed that based on what I've told him about NXT's characters, that when they're bring up to the main roster, they're nothing like how I described to him. And I said, because Vince McMahon doesn't watch the product. And he said to me, this man owns the company. And this has been said, you guys could watch JD, because this is exactly what JD said on his own channel. This guy owns a company, funds money into a wrestling brand that he allows his son-in-law to run himself, and yet does not pay attention to anything that's going on down there, or what the characters are about, so he has an understanding of what they're doing. He says that's completely retarded. That is like irresponsible and dumb as fuck. I couldn't say it any better myself. Honestly. But that's just, I don't run the company. If it was me, I would watch everything. I'd watch 205 Live. I'd watch NXT UK. I'd watch the fucking NXT brand. I would watch all the talent I have on my fucking roster. He has a humongous fucking roster between UK, NXT, 205 Live, Raw, SmackDown, and all that. He has at least 4 to 5 fucking brands going on at one time and he doesn't know half the shit that's going on. That's not good business. That's stupidity, in my opinion. But anyway, guys, leave your comments and opinions down below. Hit the like button if you like the video. And hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. I thank you very much for watching. And also, guys, I will provide a Impact Wrestling review. And I will also be watching Impact Wrestling Turning Point for their Saturday night so-called pay-per-view type of event, because there is a world title match being defended. So I definitely have an interest in watching that, since it's just not some random-ass little dinky show they just threw together and that's it. This is actually a world title opportunity for Rich Swann to go up against Sami Callihan. So I'm actually interested in seeing the entire show and see how things go, and then give you guys my insight and intake about what I saw and what I felt about the show. Anyway, guys, I thank you very much for watching. Good night, wrestling fans, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.